Hey everyone. So, thanks for your interest in exploring my slow down, low down yoga flow. This practice will stay low to the ground, and basically, what you'll need to set up is a yoga mat, or at least a clean space that you can lay on the floor with. You'll want room that can be the length of your body, but also that you can extend your arms out side to side without spacing. And then finally, a blanket will be a wonderful tool past your yoga mat. So a blanket and a yoga mat, or a clear space and a blanket. That's all you need. And I'll go ahead and take this through the sequence real time instead of this hurried up time or sped up time that was on social media. So thanks for joining me, and we'll even talk about that mudra that I'm doing right at the end. All right, so you want to set up the blanket right underneath your shoulder blades. And so this is going to create a heart opener. Most of the practices here, I sync or tune to my breath. And so you'll feel that, or you'll kind of do this into your own pace. And so I'm laying across the blanket, getting a heart opener, and my arms are extended out to the side and having the palms face down, basically the fingertips into the floor, and simply gliding or tracking the arms up and down here. Again, you can follow your breath. That might feel nice. This works internal rotation of the shoulders, which sometimes a lot of us lose range of motion here as we get a little older or wiser. And so just to maintain that, it's good to do some basic motion in internal shoulder rotation. So this is why I began the practice here. Now, you can go ahead and turn your palms up towards the sky, and then continue along that range of motion. Many of us have a little bit more range, and so as you track or glide the arms up and down, you can simply go as high as it feels comfortable for you. I also want to make a note here. I'm laying on my back, and I have my knees bent and feet planted. And just so you are aware, you could have your legs extended long and resting if you want. Constructive rest pose with the knees bent, as I have set up here, usually gives a little bit more space or relieves pressure into the low back. So adding the blanket underneath the shoulder blades will create a little bit more intensity underneath the spine, but it'll also create a heart opener. And extending the legs would also possibly arc the spine a little bit. So if your back is a little sensitive, I do recommend doing this. Is called constructive rest pose, knees bent, feet planted. And I'm doing these motions somewhere between 5 and 10 times, almost all of the practices that we're going to go through here. And so just know that you can take your time with any of these practices. So now getting into a little bit more of internal and external rotation of the shoulders, bring your arms out to a T, and then elbows stay wide, bend into the elbows and fingertips up towards the sky. And then you're simply going to flow with rotating the arms down, then back up towards the sky, and then overhead. And so a lot of times if you're doing this seated, we'll call that like cactus arms and then scarecrow arms. But on the floor, especially with this blanket underneath the shoulder blades, you're going to get this a little bit more precise. There's a way in which the feedback of the floor and lying on your back is going to give you more feedback about how this feels in the shoulders than if you were doing it, say, seated or standing. So it's a nice exploration. Again, you can do this 5 to 10 times, and you might feel a little bit more sensation in one of the shapes more than the other. So now you can go ahead and we're going to give the shoulders a little bit of rest, but we're going to start to activate the upper abdominal muscles. And so a lot of times when I do this, you can almost think of this as a crunch, or you might think of it as almost a sit-up. But the key difference here is with the blanket underneath, you're first wanting to really target or specifically access the upper abdominal muscles. And then when you lift up, you want to think of it directionally that way. Lift up towards the sky, not a crunch or a curl, if you will. Yeah, and then you can have the fingertips stacked behind the head and you can keep them there. Or as an added challenge, once you curl or lift up, you can open up the arms wide and then bring them back underneath the head. I would recommend doing this, again, 5 to 10 reps, and this will start to awaken tensions or strengthening components into the core. Another lovely thing I like about keeping this low down to the ground is it will protect your back. When you feel back pain when you're doing some things, exercises or practices, and you feel it in the back more than the belly or the targeted space, it's an indication that your core muscles are deciding to, or telling your back muscles to do the work. And our abdominals are super strong, really smart, and they do try to send all of the work and effort to other spaces. So just remember to focus on engaging those muscles and making sure that there's no pinching or pain into the low back or the upper back here. So now I'm continuing on with upper abdominals, getting a little bit more into middle abdominals. And I started out with sweeping the arms up to the sky, and I'm simply exhaling when I lift up and inhaling as I lower. And then you can create a longer lever for more challenge as you'd like. So first starting the arms up overhead, then moving the arms a couple inches from up to the sky towards overhead. And again, doing 3 to 5 reps there, then moving the arms again and doing 3 to 5 times there, and then lowering again. Now, switching gears a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and remove the blanket that's underneath and then come flat to the floor. As an alternate, if you're finding that all this time on the back is starting to feel like a lot in your body, go ahead and bring that blanket underneath your head and neck for a little extra comfort. Now, we're going to keep with the core and start with, actually first we're going to start with a little bit of joint mobility in the legs. So this is a simple movement where as you start from knees bent, feet planted, you simply extend the leg or glide the leg long on the mat, then come back to bending into the knee, and then lifting or extending that leg up to the sky. And so you can start to smooth that out where you glide the leg, draw it back in, extend it to the sky, and then return. When you bring the leg up to the sky, you can also do little motions for the ankles and toes, right? Just getting again into all these spaces in the leg. Switching gears a little bit with the leg extended up to the sky. Now simply drawing the leg out away from the body and then back to center. This one can be cued nicely with the breath. You inhale to open the leg up, and exhale, draw the leg back in. And then we'll go ahead and do that on the other side. So we start out with that sort of tracking or gliding motion, extending the leg long on the mat, and then bending at the knee, and then extending the leg up to the sky. So glide, flex, extend, and flex or bend. And you can also do stuff with the toes and ankles here. So here I decided to point through the foot, extend the leg, then push through the heel, draw it back in, extend up to the sky, and then alternate, point through the leg and do that motion or that rep with the leg pointed, and then returning back to a flexed foot. And then the next time the leg is up to the sky, we're going to go ahead and take it out to the side. What you want to be mindful of is that your hips aren't rocking side to side as you bring the leg out. Part of this of getting a little bit of core engagement here is that your hips stay centered, and then as you draw the leg out to the side and back, you're creating that stability. Now, starting to feel that connection into the low core or low abdominals, do a few toe taps. So a nice way to start this is, again, sinking to your breath. You exhale as you draw the knee in, inhale as you lower down, and alternate side to side. You might find that that doesn't feel like a physical challenge for you. And so the next place you can explore with this, as you float the legs both into tabletop, and then you can inhale as you tap a toe down and then draw the knee back in. Now you can double tap to the floor. This just pulses or stimulates the abdominals again, a little different way. So it can add a little bit extra, not necessarily to the fatigue, but the use of the abdominals. And then we'll finally finish the whole core sequence with, I was taught this as corkscrew. So the idea is that your legs become one unit, whether you push the heels together or glue the heels together, or maybe there's a little distance, but you have them work together and you do a circle, you pause and reverse that circle. And you circle around, pause, and reverse. 5 to 10 of those, and you might want to hug those knees into the belly or anchor the feet to the floor and windshield wiper those knees side to side. From here, rolling up. Now we've been on the floor for just shy of 15 minutes, so it might feel like you need a little counter stretch or movement to that spine. And then the remainder of this practice, or most of this practice, will be done from a quadruped or fours, aka tabletop position. For me, I know I'm going to be moving and tracking on the knee a lot, and I'm on a hardwood floor, so I'm going to pad up my knees plenty. They will thank me later as I set up for tabletop. Now, if you're on carpeting or something like that, you might opt to not do that. And then we'll start out with a simple cow-cat practice, cow and cat pose. Cow pose is when you go ahead and soften the belly and start to lift the heart. Take a deep breath in here. And then as you exhale, curl and round into cat pose. One thing that's nice about getting into the spine is you might even work into the sides of this. You might puff around into one shoulder blade more than the other, or go to the other side. It's really okay to explore a lot of that. And then coming to a neutral spine, extend your right leg back and go ahead and tuck the toes under and press them in. This is a nice little closed chain action where you'll dip the knee, have it kiss the floor, extend the leg, and then push through the heel for a calf stretch. So you come back, dip the knee, extend the leg, and then push back through the heel. If your calf muscles are super tight, I would just skip that pushing through the back heel, just because that could be a lot. But most of this is, again, just for getting a little bit of synovial fluid through the tissues and preparing it for some of the hip work that we're going to do. So you could switch to the other side. Dip the knee, push back through the heel. All right, coming back to a tabletop or fours position. Now, go ahead and bring the right foot all the way around and up to the top. So this is where we're going to start to activate or get into the hips a little. So you can start with, now if you have some knee stuff going on, being in a still position, picking one place and staying there is going to feel a lot better than this sort of flossing or gliding back and forth. But if it's okay to roll over the knee a little bit, you'll simply come forward into the front foot, draw the hip down, and then come back to what I call knee neutral. That back leg and hip are over the top. And these are our largest group of muscles, so it takes a little bit for them to warm up. Once you get a little bit warmed up in that forward and back, then go ahead and come up into Anjaneyasana or low lunge. Sweep the arms up to the sky, and you can do a nice flow here, continuing to support and move through the shoulders. So you can lift the arms up and down, and then again, just a nice little lubrication for if you have grumpy knees like I sometimes do. It's nice to just get some of that synovial fluid moving through the knee and the hip socket. So here, as I come back to knee neutral for the back leg, I extend the front leg and take a deep breath in, and then exhale, I bend into that front knee. And so if you do this posture, you might notice there's a lot of intensity. Maybe you have really open quadriceps, and this won't be a huge stretch for you. But for most of us, I think that will be a big, big stretch. I've kind of found my sweet spot of opening up at the hips, so you could stay when you find that. And again, just doing a simple flow of floating the arms up and down. Now, return the hands down to the mat. Here is, again, just another nice little knee lubrication. It's also going to do a lot for the hamstrings. So hands to the floor, and then you're going to lift that back foot up and then lower it and tap it down 2 to 3 times. Now go ahead and swivel on that back knee. Start to walk the hands towards the back of your mat, and then lift up the top arm, coming into a stargazer position. Stargazer just can feel so lovely for that side body, right? You feel this nice long line through the hip and through that top lung. And it can be really nice to just also give that top arm some freedom. You could wiggle through the fingers, you could rotate through the wrists. You'd feel like you're an air guitar hero, right? And sweep this and circle around. And just take another breath or so there. And then we're going to go ahead and walk back around to the front, that nice lunge position. Finishing in what is maybe a little bit more of like a deep lunge or dragon, just holding there a breath or two. Finally, coming back to tabletop or fours. So if child's pose is a comfortable position for you, you could go ahead and do child's pose here. I prefer a little bit more of like a kneeling stance, just to kind of get some of that fluidity back in. And so now we're going to do the same sequence on the other side. You're going to sweep the other leg up to the top of the mat. And once you have that foot anchored, you can keep the hands to the floor for a moment and shift forward and back on the legs. If you are in a car, if you sit a lot in your day, this is just a lovely thing to do for your hips. The acetabulum, that's your hip socket, just craves this kind of digging in deep and getting into that range. So now rising up into Anjaneyasana, or aka a low lunge or a knee down lunge is another way to express that. And just keeping with the flow, you might just really be into the breath here. And so breath and body movement might feel really good. You simply float the arms up on an inhale and float the arms down on an exhale. And then we'll start to add in that extension and bending into that front knee. So again, you could do this breath motivated. You could inhale as you extend the leg and come to knee neutral for the back, and exhale, bend into that front knee and come forward. You can add the arms with that if you'd like, or you could do them individual as I did here. Now bring the hands down. Again, we're going to get a little bit into that hamstring knee flexion, right? So you're going to feel into that nice little lunge. Taking a few breaths here. And then keeping the upper body anchored. You're going to lift that back or extended leg and lift and lower a couple times. You might have one side that feels pretty smooth doing this and the other side that might feel like it's about ready to get a hamstring cramp or something like that, which I think I only did 3 on this side because I was starting to feel like I was going to seize up in the back leg. So, but again, you can be symmetrical. You can just give your body what it needs and you will take care of you. And then setting up into Stargazer, this is where you're going to walk the hands over to the side and then all the way back, swiveling on that bottom knee. And then you can work this posture with some movements like rotating at the wrist, sweeping the arm around in a circle, or extending into this nice side body stretch. And you can bring both hands down to the mat and come to the side. So our body has fascial lines or myofascia. And so this last thing that we're going to do, I'm just staying on the same side, and then we'll switch to another side, is from the wide edge of your mat, you're going to keep that front leg extended out and point the toes out. And then you're going to lean into that side, bend in, and then draw back into the back leg or hip neutral. Now I have already added the arms. You can sweep the arm forward as you lean forward and then reach up and back into side gate pose. I always think of this as kind of like my bowling action, right? You sweep forward. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my time setting up on the other side. So again, knee padding is really beneficial for me. So just switching out to the side, you can bring your other knee onto your cushion if you've got it. Extend the other leg out when you get up off of the floor. Point those toes out to the side. And you can just let your body sort of ease into this. It's not something that we do very often. Again, these are getting into those like you floss your teeth, right? This is getting into these like little areas that we maybe don't always access. And so it can be really beneficial just to take a moment to get into these little nooks and crannies of tension and tightness in the body. And then you can add the arms again, feel like you're bowling forward and reaching back into side gate. You can do this a couple times. Again, most of these 3 to 5 times. Should give you plenty of time to get some of the sensation in, but not lingering too long. So that feels like you signed up for a yin practice with me or something like that. I should just kind of glide or floss into those hips. So staying low down to the ground. Now go ahead and you could bring a blanket for your head and neck for support if you'd like. And we'll do one last engagement through to the core. So you're going to go ahead and roll down vertebra by vertebra by vertebra. And that might even feel really good to extend or stretch long through the body. And then just take a moment to pause in what feels comfortable for you. So that might be legs extended straight, or it might be knees bent, feet planted. Go ahead and seek comfort here. So even if you're not doing a full Shavasana, right, this is a 30-minute practice or so, a little bit longer than that. So it just might feel nice to take about 10 breaths here. Again, it's not that I did everything in multiples of 5, but I guess I kind of did. So just go ahead and close your eyes. Maybe bring your hands onto your heart and your belly. Take some nice slow breaths in and out. A moment in Shavasana can be a very personal thing. And so you might decide that you just stay here for a long time. And you could even stop the video at this point, or maybe if you watch it a second time, you could stop when we go into Shavasana and give yourself exactly what you need. When you do feel ready to come out of the posture, you might start with some gentle movements, windshield wipering the knees, rocking the head a little side to side, or maybe even stretching out through the arms and legs. And whether you take a moment at your side or begin to roll up, when you're ready to come out of Shavasana, maybe you take a moment in meditation. Now, meditation, it's important to be comfortable. If you don't sit on the floor a lot, maybe you add a little bit of support underneath those hips, or you come to a chair at this point. And so the mudra that we're setting up here is Dharma Chakra Mudra. And so basically you create an OK sign, or bring the tip of the index finger and the tip of the thumb together. You do that with both hands, and then you go ahead and touch the tips of both index fingers and thumbs together, so like they're kissing, and then spin one set of fingers down. So once you set up the mudra, you can start to notice your breath. Stay present to what is. This mudra is for connecting to your truth. Sometimes it's thought of as your spiritual truth or your higher truth. And I think after you take a moment to embody in a movement practice, something like a low to the ground or grounded posture, this can be a really nice way to end that practice. Just like Shavasana, meditation can take as long or as little of a time as you would like. Sometimes all you have is 3 breaths. Sometimes you have a minute or 2. And so the invitation there is to stay in this posture, letting the breath be soft, embodying your truth. Once again, just be aware of your breath, your presence. Maybe it's something like a connection or awareness to the connection of your truth. You can stay here for as long as you'd like. When you do feel complete or ready, you could gently start to blink your eyes. You can close in a way that serves your body in practice. That might be releasing the mudra, maybe taking a moment just to honor your practice or this moment, right? I like to close often with gratitude, just simply saying, thank you, body. And know that you don't necessarily have to get off the floor after you do this slow down, low down yoga flow. Thank you for trying out this practice and spending some time with me. Namaste.